It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. If there's one term you're going to hear ad nauseum over and over and over again from Democrats and Republicans in 2026, it's affordability. It is too expensive to live, not just in California, but increasingly in a whole bunch of different parts of this country. Buying a home is getting that much more difficult for everybody. The newest generation, the generation of recent college graduates, the average age of a first-time home buyer has increased to 40. It has gotten very, very expensive. And there are a lot of factors in that. You want to go all the way back to the recession of 2008, where we just stopped building at the right pace and they stopped lending out money as much as they did. Things have gotten more expensive. In California, labor has gotten exponentially more expensive. Of course, you have all the nonsense with CEQA, but we've had that for a really long time. But there's also a few other things that have changed in the last 15 years. One, you had companies like Airbnb come out where people were taking their homes, and originally the whole idea was, okay, you occasionally rent out a room, but travelers don't really like to stay with strangers. Maybe some do, most don't. So you have a situation where people were turning entire homes or second homes into full-time vacation rentals. And that led to a rise in real estate trusts and corporate investors buying single-family homes to turn them into rentals. And we've seen in places like San Diego in 2024 and 2025, 30% of all homes sold went to these big private equity firms. I don't remember if it's BlackRock, Blackstone, but one firm bought up a whole bunch of homes. And it's such a weird time to be in real estate. You know, I live in a single-family neighborhood that was built in the late 50s. And there are still a few original owners in this neighborhood, which, by the way, if you bought in this neighborhood in the 50s, when your house cost about $50,000, and now it's worth in the 8s and 9s and maybe even $1 million if you can get it, that's quite the investment. But I've noticed something. This is a pretty hard to get into neighborhood where it used to be homes don't stay on the market very long because people stay here and they don't want to go. It's a quiet little slice of the valley. There are 2 homes in this neighborhood that have been on the market, on sale, consistently for at least 6 months. Let me see if I could pull up exactly how long these homes have been on the market, because it's pretty wild. The one across the street has been on the market for, it's had a price cut of $25,000, but they're still trying to get $1 million for it, and it's a 3-2 in the valley, so, now it's a 4-2. It's been on Zillow for 323 days. That's a long time. Oh, wow, there's another one across the street. There's a whole bunch of homes for sale now. That one's on the market 138 days. Here's another one that is on the market, and this one's only 43 days. But it didn't used to be that, homes are only on the market for 30, 40, 50 days. But you got a home that's been on the market for nearly a year. What exactly is the plan there? Now, these could be very specific individual situations, but I know just based on where we are, it's very difficult for the average person to buy. And if you are a homeowner and you happen to be lucky enough to buy in the times when interest rates were low, like if you have a rate in the 2s, if you're looking to upsize, or even if you're looking to downsize or lateral move, you're losing money. You can't give up that 2% rate. So existing homeowners can't get in. The barrier to entry for first-time home buyers is nearly impossible unless you have family that's willing to help you out, which pretty much everybody that I know that's around my age that is a homeowner became a homeowner from help from parents or in-laws, myself included. But the weirdest thing happened the other day. I was opening up my mailbox and I got a letter that was handwritten to me and my wife. And I mean, the outside envelope was yellow and it was very clear that this wasn't printed. Someone actually wrote. I'm like, okay, is this like a late Christmas card? What's going on here? And this was so creepy. I open it up and it's a picture folded. And the picture is a picture of my house. In fact, it's the printout from Zillow of my house, what my house is worth according to Zillow. And then it's got a little sticky on there. Would you be willing to sell for this plus 10%? That's super creepy. Really creepy. And I don't believe that is your average, that is not some like small parent, parent of a small family that is looking to move into this neighborhood that really likes my house because they kept driving past it and said, I'd like to live there. That is either a flipper, which is a whole other situation that has driven up the cost of real estate, or it is an investor. It is either a big private equity firm or a smaller real estate investment trust. It is somebody looking to buy this home for cash and turn it into a rental, taking this house off the market, in decreasing the housing supply that much more, and making getting into this market even more expensive. Well, there are a lot of people, and people that you wouldn't expect to come to the same conclusion that maybe this isn't such a good idea. I don't know what you do about it, but this is interesting. In the last week, two prominent leaders both said something needs to be done about corporations buying single-family homes. One of them is Gavin Newsom, and the other is Donald Trump. Believe it or not, these arch enemies have a consensus point on that maybe it's not a great idea for corporations to buy single-family homes. And don't even get me started in all the single-family homes and commercial property that's owned by foreign investors. Why are we allowing that? But let's find out what's going on here. Is there any actual plan, or is this just feeling the sentiment that when you see all of these ads, and you hear them on this radio station, you see them all on TV of all these companies that want to buy your house for cash, that is not so someone can move into it. Let's see what's going on here. Here is CBS 8 in San Diego.
We begin tonight with new attention on who is buying up homes in California. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
And I'm Steffi Roche. In his State of the State address, Governor Gavin Newsom vowed to go after large corporations that buy up single-family homes, a practice that is pricing working families out of the housing market. CBS 8's Richard Allen is here with more on state legislation taking aim at Wall Street investors and why it's now lining up with what President Trump is calling for at the federal level.
Well, that's right. It's always unusual when our state leader and our nation's leader seem to be in sync on something, but Governor Newsom's
I guess that would tell you that this has bipartisan support, maybe.
Proposal in his State of the State came just one day after President Trump said he would take similar action on the federal level.
These investors are crushing the dream of home ownership and forcing rents too damn high.
Okay, can we just all stop saying that phrase? I am so sick of people saying the rent is too damn high. Not because it isn't high, it is high. But that phrase is just overdone.
For everybody else.
In his final State of the State address, Governor Newsom took aim squarely at Wall Street-backed corporate investors who purchase large numbers of single-family homes.
And by the way, this has been a major issue in California for the past 5 years. We're getting to it now in the last year of the term.
I think it's shameful that we allow private equity firms in Manhattan to become some of the biggest landlords here in our cities in California.
That same week, President Trump posted on social media that he plans to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and that he'll be calling on Congress to codify it, adding that, quote, people live in homes, not corporations. These corporations with deep pockets are often able to purchase houses outright with cash.
And if you are a first-time home buyer, you're someone that has to sell your home to be able to afford the other home, and you have to go through the escrow process, go through the mortgage process, how exactly are you supposed to compete with an all-cash buyer who has so many resources they can offer above asking?
Making it difficult for ordinary buyers seeking a mortgage to compete.
To have that additional unfair competition is only worsening the housing crisis.
State Assembly member Alex Lee has proposed AB 1240, which would ban institutional investors that already own more than 1,000 single-family homes from purchasing any additional ones. And
you can only own 1,000 houses. So where did they come up with that number? Just find that interesting.
And converting them in.
Look, there are plenty of industries for private equity to wreck and destroy. Probably your favorite food chain just got bought up by them, Jersey Mike's. And I'm sure they will ruin the product like they ruin everything, because that's what private equity is meant to do. It is meant to increase dividends by destroying the product. But maybe, just maybe, home ownership should be off the table for that. I don't know. We live in a free market economy. I guess private equity should be able to buy everything.
And converting them into rentals.
It is already hard enough for an American family, a Californian family, to save up enough to compete for a bid on a single-family house. Now imagine competing with a corporation. And you're not going to have enough money to do so.
The bill is facing pushback from rental and realtor associations, which say this unfairly targets large investors and harms rental supply.
Oh, because more homes will be for sale to actual people? Isn't that a good thing? Don't we want more home ownership? We want less rentership? Right now, I think we're a majority renter state. We're a majority renter city in Los Angeles. And isn't that a failure? Isn't the whole point to own a home so you have wealth that you can transfer to another generation?
Some critics also say the number of homes owned by investors is not large enough to warrant this legislation. The California Research Bureau says approximately 3% of single-family homes here in California are owned by holders of at least 10 properties.
Okay, 3% of California single-family homes. So that doesn't sound like that many. But let's never forget, California is a massive, massive state. So according to estimates, there are about 7.5 million single-family homes. So if I open up my handy-dandy calculator and you type 7.5 million times 0.03, 3%, that's 225,000 homes that families could live in but can't because they're owned by private equity slop. And they're turned into rentals that are probably renting for way above asking. Good luck with the wiggle room when you're dealing with a faceless company as your landlord.
The California Research Bureau says approximately 3% of single-family homes here in California are owned by holders of at least 10 properties.
We just don't think that this bill is touching on a real problem in California, and instead...
When you look at what happened in San Diego, where a third of all homes were purchased by private equity in 1 year, that sure seems like an issue and like it's getting worse.
And instead, we should be looking at how we can increase the housing stock, which is part of what these companies are working on.
It can be made to look small, but in reality, we know is that if one person owns one house and a corporation owns 1,000, there's already power and economic disparity.
And at this point, AB 1240 has already passed the full assembly. It's now up to the state Senate to also approve it before it would go to the governor's desk for his signature, which Governor Newsom appears eager to do.
Pretty unusual for the president and Governor Newsom.
We don't usually see that, yeah.
Have either one of them or both of them come up with any specifics to attack this kind of thing?
It's really more of a sentiment than any set plan, and this is true from the state side and the federal side.
Are they going to actually stop investors from coming in and buying homes?
Well, Well, we haven't heard the details yet. Governor Newsom indicated that this may require changing the state's tax code in some way, but he didn't give any further details on that. President Trump was even more vague in his social media post, but he did promise to give more details when he speaks next week at the World Economic Forum, and that'll be in Switzerland.
People are very interested to hear more about this, but we'll see. It all comes down to the details. Right?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
So there you go, an issue where Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump are on the same page. We don't have any details whatsoever from the feds or the state, but I think the sentiment is there. Even if it only accounts for a small percentage of the homes that are on the market, that's still 250,000 homes. That's a lot. Those are the homes that families could live in. And you look at the way that homes, I mean, just the whole system here makes no sense. I drive on, one of the thoroughfares that gets me to my neighborhood, and I noticed this just driving here. For all the nonsense, and we need to tear down single-family homes to build more apartment buildings, we need to tear down old apartment buildings to build taller apartment buildings, there is a lot of useless commercial real estate in the San Fernando Valley. Or there are these tiny little strip malls that only house businesses that I don't care for in my neighborhood, that can't be generating that much money, that are the properties that really should be targeted to be demolished and redeveloped to multifamily housing. And I don't understand how corporate landlords work. I don't understand how a lot of things work, but I do not understand the economics of commercial real estate, because there's a strip mall near me. And there's a cake business that went out of business a year ago, but the sign is still up. There's a smoke shop that's definitely selling more than smoke. And there was a massage parlor that's definitely selling more than massages. And the two other spaces in that strip mall have been vacant for years, and it's next to a 7-Eleven. I think that entire block should be demolished. And then you could put up an apartment building. But what do you think about what Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump seem to be on the same page about? Do you think we should find a way to ban corporations from buying single-family homes? Do you think that would help our ever-worsening real estate crisis? I mean, it's not going to do anything about interest rates, but who knows what will. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Do you think on the state and federal level we need to ban corporations, private equity firms from buying single-family homes? Should single-family homes be for single families? 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. Whether you're a homeowner or a renter that's trying to become a homeowner, you've got an opinion about this, so give me a call. 800-222-5222. 1-800-222-5222. We'll take your calls coming up next. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. We're taking your phone calls right now, 800-222-5222. There is an issue where Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump both have the same point of view. They both have made statements in the last week saying that we need to do something to make sure corporations and private equity cannot buy single-family homes because it is making an uneven playing field. Do you think corporations and private equity should be allowed to buy single-family homes? Do you think banning them will have any effect on the real estate market whatsoever? Now's your time to chime in, 800-222-5222. Let's start with Vivian in Granada Hills. Vivian, hello.
Hello, how are you? Yes, I get calls almost every day wanting to know if we're going to sell our house, and I tell them no, and I like to know where they're calling. But my bottom line to that is that I'm not, even if I was to sell my house, it would not be to anyone who's not an American, who's not born here.
Yeah, when I got that letter in the mail, it was so creepy. It almost felt like someone spying on me, and someone wants to snatch this home out from under me because it's obviously worth more than they think it is on Zillow. But I found that to be super duper creepy. That being said, they want to offer 10% over the value. You have to think about that.
Mm-hmm. They even mention my address and everything. So I say no. And if and when I do, it will not be to a non-American who is not born here.
Well, there you go, Vivian. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. And, I feel like I'm stuck, even if I was in a situation where, I didn't have to drive to Culver City every day and so I could move somewhere else. I'm stuck at a 2% interest rate. What am I supposed to do? I guess rent out this place and then rent somewhere else. And, it just seems like such a headache. It's like I'm blessed that I have a 2% interest rate, but I also feel locked into a home in a neighborhood that I have outgrown. Let's go to Mark in San Diego. Mark, hello.
Randy, I'm lucky to own a home in Southern California. There's no way I could compete. A private equity firm should be apartment buildings and hotels. This is ridiculous. I had to get a silent second just to get my foot in the door, and that was 30 years ago. In California, it is impossible, and it was also a lucky thing that the guy that was selling wanted to meet the people he was selling his home to. I apologize for the kids in the car, but I can tell you we would not have a home in San Diego if they had the rules that they have today. Private equity firms should not be able to buy any single-family residence. Private equity firms are for private equity. A single individual, if they own 5 more homes, that's enough. If you're a single individual and you own 5 other homes that you're renting, that should be enough. And that's all I
think you make a really strong point, Mark. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Oh, boy. But ultimately, the American dream is supposed to be that you can get your own property, you can get your own single-family home. And it's not the only reason that it's getting harder. There are many other reasons as well. But if you're that first-time buyer and you're getting outbid by corporations, what do we do to level that playing field? So it is something to think about. Let's go to Tim in Norwalk. Tim, hello.
Oh, hey, Randy. I called because I was listening to the show. I wasn't going to call, but the guy compelled me when he said he thinks everybody should be able to invest in single-family homes. And I just want to point this out. Gavin Newsom copied Trump. Trump came out earlier last week saying he needs to do something, and that's because he actually listens to what people are saying. And this has been an issue that has been brought up to him and members of Congress for over a decade about companies like BlackRock and Blackstone and a couple others that they're not even American companies, right? I think it's called Evergrande or Evergreen. They buy literally tens of thousands of homes, single-family homes across America, and jack up the prices and turn people into renters, having people share rooms. You can't even, find a home for rent anymore. It's almost all scams, or if it's not, it's one of these foreign companies. I don't know if you know this, but let me just read you this article I screenshotted real quick. It's about BlackRock in 2023 bought 44% over 80,000 homes of the homes that were sold just in 2003. So they come out and they talk about, a shortage of affordable housing while they sit there and let these companies have their way with the American real estate market. So,
yeah. And for the most part, the state has a vested interest in allowing that because that's more real estate transfer tax. That means every time a home is sold, that means a property value is reassessed. So they have had a vested interest in keeping that gravy train going, but it has definitely made it a lot harder for this current generation of people to get into home ownership. Thanks so much for the call, Tim. Appreciate it. Like I said, I don't know anyone in my generation. I mean, this is anecdotal, but I know quite a few people. But, I was born in 85. I just turned 40. I don't know anybody in my age range, 5 years older, 5 years younger, 10 years older, 10 years younger, that didn't buy a home without help from the wealth from their parents or their in-laws. It's quite a scene. Now, part of that is it's so damn expensive in California. And yeah, if you were lucky enough to buy when the economy was crap in 2011, well, lucky you. But most people didn't have jobs then. Let's go to Lee in Temple City. Lee, hello.
Hi. Hi, Randy.
Hi.
I just wanted to say Gavin Newsom is a liar, and he's been a liar, and he will always remain a liar because the guy sold out all of our agriculture, not all of it, but most of it in Central Valley. So China's growing their farms, their produce, and sending it back to China. Our whole West Coast land for agriculture is owned by, a lot of it's owned by China or Bill Gates. So another
that's
thing
a thing that
is
really, that is, nobody's talking about it, but it's something that every time we do a topic like this, people bring it up, and it's like, why are there no limits on what foreign investors can buy when it comes to real estate in the state, whether it is farms, whether it is multifamily housing? It's really bizarre. Exactly. And then you think about all the derelict, abandoned buildings that bring blight, like the Tiger Towers in LA, a whole bunch of buildings in San Jose, and they're owned by Chinese companies that don't care.
Yeah, and he knows about it. He's not a dummy. He's filling his pockets as well. But my question is, all these big corporations that took out these loans for homelessness, all these programs, these workshops, and they're rebuilding these motels, hotels, half of them are not complete, and they're just sitting there vacant. And they pocketed the money and went bankrupt and took the money. And that's another thing he's turned his head on, too, and he needs to be held accountable.
That's a really good point.
And president. He's a failure.
Well, and think about this. Gavin Newsom's been governor for 8 years, and he's coming up with this idea now. What's up with that? Thanks so much for the call, Lee. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Let's go to Brenda in Los Angeles. Brenda, hello.
Hi. So I'm going to piggyback with what she was saying. So here's what they do. In California, we have entitlements. They give them just enough to keep them voting. They keep them on a string. We have to pay property taxes. They make it so unbearable for people to purchase and live in this state. And with all the money we pay in taxes and the billions of dollars missing, people could afford to live. We should be driving on gold-lined streets. But what they do is they launder the money. I finally woke up. The government launders the money, and some politicians go in there with good intentions, and then they find out about a special stock trade or something, and it's not about the people. It's about funneling money. That's why Gavin Newsom is in a $9.1 million house. And we have to wake up, and we have to have term limits. We have to have accountability, and we have to do an audit. And I pray that an audit is done of this state like they're doing in Minnesota. And you want to talk about reparations? Let's give it to the American taxpayer who's being ripped off, and life is unaffordable. I have to pay 50 cents. I went to a restaurant for extra salad dressing. I said, I don't want extra. I just want enough. I have to pay a 3% credit card tax. I went to park at a restaurant. It was $18. So we have to hold accountability, and we have a leadership problem. Stop voting with whether you have a D or an R in front of their names. These are people, they're politicians. They couldn't run a lemonade stand. And just think of it this way. For every dollar you spend in this state, you have to make over $2 to have that single dollar. And we got to get the rates down, too, which I know Trump wants to do.
Well, there you go. There was a lot there. Thanks so much for the call, Brenda. Appreciate it. I will say one thing. We have term limits in California. And while I don't love the idea of politicians doing this for life, this state was better run before term limits, because now we just have a revolving slate of people hopping to this seat, hopping to that seat. You're in the assembly, you're in the state senate, then you go to the city council, then you go to the county board of supervisors. It hasn't stopped career politicians, but it's made them all less accountable for the decisions that they make. And when it comes to stock trading, I know that's being talked about at the federal level, but it should be talked about at the state level. Anyone that has influence over how government and commerce is going should not be able to profit off it in any way, shape, or form. But a lot of that happens. Let's go to Peter in Pasadena. Peter, hello.
Yes, they should not eliminate the opportunity for these extremely wealthy folks to purchase so many homes, but they desensitize the situation. So, for example, when you're purchasing a rental, you can have deductibles for like 20-something odd years. Well, make it 40 years. So that way they're not purchasing 20 homes. They're only purchasing 10 homes. And so I'm kind of surprised that President Trump, not being a businessman and realtor, that he doesn't come up with other things as to how do we disincentivize these big corporations from purchasing so many. So again, the objective should be to decrease or reduce the amount of what they can purchase rather than eliminate. I don't think that's a good solution to eliminate.
Well, I think that's a great idea. I think restructuring the tax so there aren't these incentives to borrow against your debt, to write off even more mortgage interest. There has to be, and that is an easier way to do it than to just outright ban, which I'm sure will face different kinds of lawsuits and pushback. So I like that. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump agree. They both think that corporations and private equity should not be able to buy single-family homes. We don't have any details yet, but what do you think about this? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. For context, if you just happen to look up how many single-family homes are owned by Blackstone, it's between 65,000 and 100,000 homes. That's just one company. When you type in BlackRock, they say we don't own homes. We just own the companies that manage homes. So I feel like they paid to make sure those results were scrubbed. Who knows? It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Well, we talked about the plight of people trying to get into the home ownership market. What about renters? Well, they're struggling too. And that is why there is a new push to put a statewide cap on rent increases. What does this mean? Let's go to CBS 8.
Last year, hundreds gathered here in support of the same bill. So Monday's gathering was much smaller, but it's ahead of a vote in the Assembly Judiciary Committee. If the bill advances, it goes to the Appropriations Committee and then eventually the Assembly floor.
Housing is a human right.
What does that mean? If housing is a human right, like, does that mean that everyone is entitled to one? How does that work?
Housing is a human right.
My rent is half of my income.
But the rent was constantly going up. She was eating dog food.
What? Okay, I know they're only playing snippets from this presser, but I feel like I need some context.
But the rent was constantly going up. She was eating dog food and cat food to survive.
Now, let me tell you why I don't believe that. As a dog owner and a cat owner, dog food and cat food aren't cheaper than like the basest level of food that you can buy for humans. If you are really so destitute that you're paying 90% of your income on rent and the only thing you can afford is dog food or cat food, you can probably afford rice and beans. You can live pretty cheap on rice and beans. I think this is being used for dramatic effect. Maybe I'm wrong, but that seems a little weird.
But the rent was constantly going up. She was eating dog food and cat food to survive.
I mean, even the crappy cat food's like $1 a can. What do you think is happening here? Unless you're getting, the 70-pound bag of kibble? That's not cheap either. I would like context with this story.
Determined chance and personal stories echoed through the west steps of the state capitol Monday as advocates.
The rent's so high, people are eating dog food. I guess that's better than they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
Advocates voiced strong support for AB 1157, Affordable Rent Act, also known as the Rent Cap Bill. An effort.
Boy, that was organized. I couldn't even tell what they were screaming.
An effort.
Not coordinated at all. But maybe they were all just kind of blown away by the eating cat food story.
An effort started last year by Democratic Assembly member Ash Kalra. The bill narrowly advanced 7-5 out of the Assembly Housing Committee in April and will be voted on in the Judiciary Committee Tuesday.
We're facing an affordable housing crisis that didn't occur overnight.
Kalra calls his bill the solution.
By the way, can we stop saying this didn't occur overnight? It's been going on for the last 40 years. I don't care.
Kalra calls his bill the solution to the affordability crisis.
The state must show its commitment to addressing housing affordability, not just in words, but in action.
The bill proposes a permanent rent cap statewide, reducing it from the current 10% to 5% or 2% plus the current inflation rate, whichever is lower.
Yes, sure, maybe that'll help, but what if your landlord and your utility and insurance costs go above that? Now you're losing money? Then you sell to who? Blackstone. It all comes together. Thank you all so much for listening. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.